of Ethiopia. I now give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank Mr. Mladenov for his briefing on the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question. That is the way that the agenda we developed together is formulated, is worded, and let's observe that. We note with regret that the status quo on the occupied Palestinian territories, the epicenter of the conflict potential in the Middle East, is not viable. It is accompanied by an endless row of crises. As a result, movement is being blocked, movement towards achieving a comprehensive, sustainable Arab-Israeli settlement and also solving the Palestinian question on the international legal basis, including Security Council resolutions, the Arab Peace Initiative, and the Madrid principles, including the principle of land for peace, as well as the two-state formula, which presupposes, through negotiations, creating a state of Palestine coexisting in peace and security with Israel. Against a backdrop of something that is being rejected by the entire international community, aggressive revision of prior agreements, including those of the Security Council, the prospects for resuming the negotiating process are becoming ever more distant. There is a growing gap of misunderstanding and mistrust between Palestinians and Israelis. To the fore now, there are not calls for peace and peace initiatives, but rather violence, unilateral steps, provocational rhetoric. There is sustained tension around the Gaza Strip, where lately, through great efforts, has it been possible to establish relative calm. Efforts to show restraint must be preserved. Actions leading to casualties among the civilian population and the destruction of civilian objects in the Gaza Strip and Israel deserve to be roundly condemned. In the conditions of the current exacerbation on the Palestinian-Israeli track, we have called upon the parties to immediately halt hostilities. We value and support the mediation efforts of Egypt and the UN to restore the cessation of hostilities regime. We trust that it will be sustainable and long-term in nature and will allow the international community to intensify work to rectify the dismal humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip and to focus on making headway on the political process. It goes without saying, and that is particularly worth underscoring, that any assistance to the Gaza Strip must be done in close coordination with the legitimate Palestinian authorities, led by President Abbas, and be in line with work to restore Palestinian unity. It is necessary to urgently intensify collective diplomacy to prevent a failure of efforts which the international community, all of us, have made together to bring about conditions for the realization of the only viable two-state solution through direct negotiations between Palestinians and Israelis. It is through direct dialogue that answers to all final status questions must be sought. This concerns Jerusalem, refugees, borders, fundamental security issues for the region as well. These sensitive questions cannot simply be taken off the negotiating table before they are discussed by the parties. If they cannot be resolved, they nevertheless will emerge and they will be painful issues for all. The policy of creating fait accompli, realities on the ground, in an attempt to second-guess the outcome of bilateral negotiations of all matters is unacceptable. We consider to be unacceptable and illegitimate the expansion of Israeli settlements, demolition of Palestinian property, and the eviction of Palestinian families. All of this runs counter to international law and undermines the two-state solution. Just as unacceptable and illegitimate is the Israeli authorities organizing municipal elections in the occupied Syrian Golan. This dangerous step violates more than one Security Council resolution, and it could have far-reaching negative consequences for the Middle East settlement in general. The position of Russia remains a consistent one. We maintain and develop relations with all states in the region. within the context of a positive agenda. We are in favor of renewing the active work of the Middle East Quartet of International Mediators, which continues to be the only unique mediating format endorsed by Security Council resolutions. The proposal to hold a summit in Russia between the leaders of Palestine and Israel remains relevant, and we remind you that the Palestinian leader has repeatedly confirmed his agreement with our initiative. We will continue to assist the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East. Financial and political assistance. UNRWA's activities are of fundamental importance, providing an important stabilizing effect on the Palestinian territories and the countries of the Middle East. The agency must be able to live and function fully. In conclusion, I would once again like to invite colleagues in the Security Council to refrain from threats and unfounded allegations. Instead, it is necessary to strengthen a general atmosphere of trust, both in the Security Council and in the Middle East and North Africa region, and also to reject a policy of confrontation once and for all. Israelis and Palestinians and Saudis and Iranians deserve to live in prosperity and security, but in order for that goal to be achieved, the regional security architecture must be comprehensive and indivisible. Diplomacy and dialogue channels need to be brought to bear. We expect that the Russian security concept for the Persian Gulf is a good basis for work in this direction. History will demonstrate that we are trying to achieve successes in the Middle East only when we are able to do that only when we work together on the basis of the UN Charter, respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation.